Lovely. So this is great to meet you, Sam. Thank you very much, Dr. Sam Osmanagich. Have I pronounced that correctly? So thank you so much for having this chat with me. I'm really excited about this. And as I was just briefly saying, I'm not a journalist. You know, I think many of us have been thrown into roles that we're not used to help humanity more than anything. It's crazy, isn't it? And I think we're all a bit not perplexed, but shocked that it's happening in our lifetime. All this stuff that we've read about and we've researched and looked into. So we've always known something's coming and it's here. And that's why I'm so happy to speak to somebody like yourself, because you've been researching, we've been going all around the world digging up bits and bobs, haven't you, discovering things. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself, really, and what set you on this path of discovery?
Yes, gladly. I have been having two careers in my life. One was business, which allows me to develop my interest in what I really liked and what I really loved, and that would be the ancient civilizations, megalithic sites, and above all, the pyramid sites. My PhD is about the Mayan pyramids in the Central America, Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, and Belize. But I have expanded my research in the last 4 decades to all the countries with the pyramids: Peru, Bolivia, China, Indonesia, Cambodia, Australia, Sudan, Egypt, Canary, Mauritius, in Europe, Spain, Italy, Greece, United States also. So I have realized during my investigation that almost everything they teach us about the ancient history is wrong. The origin of man, civilizations, and pyramids. We have been programmed to think the pyramids equal Egypt, desert, pharaohs, tombs. Wrong. Out of 155 pyramids on Egyptian soil, not in a single one the mummy was retrieved. Pharaohs have been buried, but in the Valley of Kings, 300 kilometers to the south from the Giza Plateau, in Thebes, in Memphis, in their capitals, not in the pyramids, especially not in the 28 biggest stone pyramids, which are much, much older than the 3rd, 4th, or the 5th dynasty. And the second thing, of course, they've been teaching us pyramids are built in Egypt and Mexico. Obviously, they were built on all 6 continents. So this is what I do. I try to find out for myself the real truth about the pyramids, about the megalithic sites, including sites like Stonehenge, Avebury Hill, Glastonbury Tor, Karnak in France, Alestenar in Sweden, Ružomberok in Israel. So megalithic sites, pyramids, ancient civilizations are true origin. And based on that, I can see that the elites have been manipulated us into thinking that we are the first advanced society, technologically most developed, the most beautiful, and that would be wrong. We are just one of the number of civilizations living on this planet. Just in the last 100,000 years, it was at least 6 different civilizational cycluses. So now when you learn that, then you can watch more closely what's happening today. And just before the show started, we mentioned briefly this life experience. Of course, we are not only the physical body. There's just one entity, which is for one use only. We are also a soul. Soul is inside, and the physical body is the protection for our soul. And the soul chooses where to go in the next lifetime. And there is a very specific reason for you and me and 7.8 billion people nowadays to be here. We are put on test. And the real test is when you have bad choice and worse choice. And that's exactly what we've been having in the last 2.5 years. There is no an easy choice. And we need, only when you have such a difficult, challenging times, this is the opportunity to grow, to spiritually grow. And unfortunately, probably about 90% of the people have failed this test because they allowed the fear to rule their lives. So as you can see, what I do, I watch, I observe, and the result of those activities is 18 books translated into 17 languages, my business career in Houston, Texas for 25 years. And now I'm back to my home country of Bosnia. I'm back to the place where I wouldn't say discovered, probably rediscovered is better terms, the Bosnian pyramids, a huge complex which consists of at least 6 pyramids, huge network of underground tunnels, the tumuli complex, and we have proven in the last 17 years under my management that the pyramids are not tombs, but energy amplifiers.
So can I come in here, Sam? Two
Yes.
things. You're saying a lot of people have failed the test, which is an interesting way of pushing it. Is it just fear? Is there anything else because of this massive hypnosis, this manipulation of society, which is, again, I say global, but it's more in the West, people that have access to televisions and social media. Although most people in the world have a phone. You might not have a pair of shoes on your feet, but if you go to India, they've all got a phone. So is that anything to do with it?
You are completely right. Of course, there is an answer in your question already, but it has not happened overnight. 1981, William Casey, he was appointed General Director of the CIA, Central Intelligence Agency in the US, and he was running the campaign for the Ronald Reagan. And at the first meeting, when all the members of the government was giving an idea about their program, what they're going to do, William Casey said, we, meaning CIA, at that time, the most influential and most powerful intelligence service in the world, because as we know, they were appointed or they were removing rulers, presidents, kings, and so on. He said, we are going to continue our program of disinformation of public until all of them believe in the lies. So basically he was saying that for decades, and that's the truth, through educational system, through media, through movies, through cultural establishment, and so on, what they were doing, they were manipulating with the people. And this manipulation was so wide, it includes the food, the water that we drink, the air that we breathe. How is that possible? For example, take the water. Instead of drinking spring water that gives you life because it's energetically, vibrating high, there is a water industry. They kill viruses and microbes using the chlorine. And the chlorine is a poison. In the UK, there is the fluorides. Fluorides or fluor, it's a poison. Also in the US, Australia, New Zealand, and so on. When I say poison, in the case of fluoride, what it does, it kills our brain cells. When we talk on this device, keeping it here for 10-15 minutes, it kills, it burns our brain cells. Less fluorides and all other stuff, less brain cells, we think less. It's much easier to manipulate with us. And the same process goes with the food, with the air, with, of course, they know exactly what kind of frequency to use through that magic box or TV. So yes, you are completely right with your question. It did not happen overnight, it's been prepared. This stage has been prepared for a very long time. So now when they were ready organizationally, when they had everything in place, corporations, media, fact checkers, medical establishment and so on, they simply went and make no mistake.
So Sam, what made you become aware of, Is it just through digging up around the world, looking for pyramids? And, what made you wake up, we say over here? We're awake to know what's going on. Were you a little boy? Did something happen?
Yeah, in my case, it was a process. During my teenage days and in my 20s, when we wanted to find out something. For example, today you have Wikipedia. You don't know nothing about something, you go to Wikipedia, you read 2 sentences, and then you think you know everything. We know nothing. At that time, 30, 40 years ago, you had to read a book if you want to become familiar with some subject. At that time, I was reading 100 books per year, 100 books from different fields. The one that was kind of catching my attention was the history, because the more I would read, the more I would realize that there are so many gray areas, something was wrong. So when I started to travel, let's say you go to Peru, you read about Machu Picchu. Everybody is saying that it was a royal retreat for ancient Incas, 800 years back. You go there, then you realize that you have 4 distinctive civilizations, 4 different construction styles. The first one, the biggest megalithic blocks, they are like 250 tons in mass. And the physical chemical properties are telling us that this material came from Bolivia, not even from Peru, 150 kilometers away. 250 tons. It's a logical nightmare for us today, especially to the high mountain. That's what Machu Picchu is. It's 2,500 meters in height. So how they move it? The second, that first civilization, probably 55,000 years. The second one, 12,000. The third one, 5,000. The fourth one, the Incas came to the remote area, to the forgotten, place, and they used the small rocks to divide those huge walls, huge areas. They put their primitive roofs, and this is where they were bringing their royals. And then you realize that every reference that you read was wrong. And Machu Picchu is just one example. Everything else, you go to Easter Island, you go to Göbekli Tepe, Yonaguni monuments, Egyptian pyramids, Mexican pyramids, Chinese pyramids, and so on, you see that everything was wrong. So it was a kind of evolutionary process in my case. Plus, I was reading a lot about the remote viewing, about different, techniques to relax, to meditate, hypnotic regression, stuff like that. Then you learn that we are much more than the physical body. There is a soul, and there is a spirit as the third entity. Soul is individual, and we go through different lifetimes, through different bodies, through different planets, through different star constellations, through different galaxies and even universes. But sooner or later, we're going to go back to where it all began, to God or to the cosmic consciousness. And the third entity in ourselves is that divine light, that part of the God. When the holy books say, hey, God is everywhere around you, but also in you, inside. Of course it is. So 3 entities. So we are so complex, but at the same time, once you realize that there is no reason to fear, physical body, okay, disappears, but we need to use this life experience the best we can. Even though some of the movements like Brahma Kumaris, they are great in meditations, but, for them, this body is just the vehicle. They don't care about the vehicle, but I think the vehicle does need maintenance. The vehicle, you need to take care of it. And the soul, of course, so important. And it seems that most of our fears are based on this fear of death, of physical disappearance. And based on that, you have other fears like fear of losing the job. You lose the job, you lose the income, you lose your house, you lose the mortgage, you lose your savings account, you lose your car, you lose whatever. Fear, fear, fear. And that's the reason why fear is instilled in all aspects of our life. You go to academia, if you're an assistant professor, you're afraid what you're going to say in front of your professor. Professor is afraid what's going to say in front of the dean or the rector. The same thing in the corporate world, junior managers, senior managers. The same thing in the media world. If you are junior journalist, editor, if he finds that you are doing stuff wrong, they can fire you. They fire you, you lose everything. So fear is everywhere. And of course, it works very good for the elite to have such a system. Imagine that all of us realize that besides the physical aspect of our lives and 5 physical senses, we have spiritual aspect and 30 spiritual senses, that we can see the energies, that we can see auric fields, that we can see chakras, that we can communicate with our thoughts. Telepathy is a spiritual sense, that we can use our power to move the object. Telekinesis is also our sense, that we can move through space and time, teleportation. Once we realize that we have all those abilities and we start using them, we become free. And if we are free, then we don't care what that magic box, TV or computer or cell phone is telling us. We don't care about who's the prime minister or president or whatever, because we are free.
Yeah.
So this is the way how they're gonna lose their power base. So
imagine. So therefore, because I totally, that's the answer, to be out of fear and understand we are much more than a physical body. We're superhuman. We have superhuman powers that have been suppressed. So 2 things I'm going to ask you so I don't forget. How can these wonderful discoveries, the pyramids all over the world, I don't think we have pyramids in the UK. We obviously have stone and barrows and all sorts of other wonderful, exciting things. How can we use those to help us, or can we, as peoples in the past probably have done? And then how do we wake up those people that have failed the test, as you call it, or do we wake them up? And where do we go? What is that? Yeah, big question. Why are we here? Sorry, yes. Big questions.
Okay, let's start with the first question. The pyramids. So they've been telling us pyramids, tombs for the pharaohs, or places to sacrifice the enemies. Don't touch them, because archaeologists, Egyptologists, they explain it all based on what? Based on few pieces of ceramics and primitive tools. This is not how you explain pyramids. With pyramids, you need to have interdisciplinary scientific approach. Besides classical sciences, archaeology, Egyptology, geology, biology, paleontology, you need to apply high-tech, disciplines, georadar, satellite, geothermal analysis, radiocarbon dating, uranium thorium analysis. This is what we do. You need to bring the experts in energy phenomena.
Yeah.
Physicists, electrical engineers, sound engineers, telecommunication engineers. You need to bring medical doctors to run their medical studies. With such approach, you can start realizing that pyramids actually amplifies natural sources of energy. You locate the pyramid above underground energy point. For example, in our case, the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, which is the largest on the planet, which is 360 meters. The Great Pyramid of Egypt, 146.6. So it is above huge iron plate. Iron generates electromagnetic field. The pyramid pulls this field up. It amplifies it. How do we know? Because we have measured at the base, at the top. At the top, 50 times stronger. With my Russian colleagues, geophysicists, I measured it also at the Red Pyramid in Egypt. The same scenario. Second thing, under the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, underground water flow. Water moves, releases negative ions. Pyramid amplifies concentration of negative ions. And that's the reason why we have the highest concentration of very beneficial negative ions in our tunnels under the pyramids. So in Bosnia, 6 pyramids, more than 100 kilometers of underground prehistorical tunnels. We have discovered 6 entrances, and so far we have cleared about 3 kilometers. We've done a lot, but this is just 3%. It's just the beginning. The next thing, we are finding a lot of quartz crystal on the pyramid during the excavation in the tunnels. Quartz crystal has the ability to transform one form of the energy, which is electromagnetism, to another one through the piezoelectrical effect, creating ultrasound. And we measure 28 kilohertz frequency of ultrasound. That's the levitation frequency. People feel light in the tunnels on the pyramid. We measure also one form of the energy called orgone energy or life energy.
Yeah.
In Eastern traditions, it's called prana or chi. So we have instruments to measure on the scale from 0 to 100. Our cities contaminated, 25%. Villages out of the at open, 50%. Pyramids, tunnels, 100%. So now we can see that pyramid does amplify different forms of energy. Since it amplifies our planetary energies, they're all beneficial. What we do as a civilization, we make up frequencies. Here, 3G, 4G, 5G, 2.5, 2.4 gigahertz, 6 gigahertz, 60 gigahertz, you can breathe. Or tomorrow, 6G, 300 gigahertz. These are radio waves. They burn our brain cells, as we concluded, causing the cancers. Or what I have in my room here, 220 volts and 50 hertz. You probably have 110 and 60 hertz. You touch the loose wire, it kills you. These are the frequencies that we are making up. It seems like intentionally somebody is doing all this stuff against us, normal people. Go back to answering your first question. What the pyramids do, how we discuss. So I discovered them just by looking. I could see, even though it was covered by soil, vegetation, forest, I could see 4 sides, triangular faces, perfect orientation, east, west, north, south. We started digging below 1 meter of soil, huge blocks, which we analyzed. Some of them are square, some of them are rectangular. And we analyzed them, they are artificially made concrete, pyramid covered in concrete. But more importantly, it's not just a structure, it is energy machines. How we can use this energy? Now, through the top of the pyramid, we measure electrical energy beam, which is 28 kilohertz in frequency, which is continuous because we measure it in summer, fall, winter, and spring. In science, it is called scalar waves. We call it Tesla's scalar waves because the brilliant mind of Nikola Tesla was investigating this phenomenon in 1899 in his lab in Colorado Springs. In the last 50 years, Russian physicists, they all concluded scalar waves move energy, they move information much quicker than the speed of light. So they are ideal media for the communication. Our first conclusion, the Bosnian pyramids were communication devices. The second one, about the benefits. You go to the tunnels, you went there, you could breathe very well. Matter of fact, deeper you go, you breathe better and better. So people with the respiratory problems, they go inside for asthma, for example, they breathe so well, they go outside, they don't need inhalators, air pumps for weeks. People with a high blood pressure, it gets normalized. People with high sugar in the blood, it comes back to the normal level. People with some very serious diseases, tumors, cancers, and so on, we can see some revolutionary improvement of their health. So our second conclusion was that the pyramid energy was used to protect what is the most precious to us, our health. Number 3, water. We are finding 5 tunnels with the water inside those tunnels. We've analyzed them, no viruses, no bacteria, no fungi. pH excellent, 7.45, which is pH of our blood. And its molecular structure, when you get the sample frozen, it's hexagonal, the most powerful geometrical shape when it comes to the energy. And the structure is like crystal-like. Crystal-like meaning it vibrates high, it's a happy water. So pyramid energy was used to improve the most important liquid in our life. And we are, of course, they are saying 75% or 80% of water. I would say 99%, because even what is solid stuff like the brain or whatever, squeeze it, you get the water. Number 4, to improve the food. Number 5, to improve our spiritual ability. You are inside the tunnels or on the pyramids, you can start feeling the energy. With little more practice, you can start seeing the energy fields and so on. The next one, immunity. In this world, the key word is not a vaccine, it is immunity, because we can see that vaccinated and non-vaccinated are getting viruses. And once they got it, then it's all it matters is your immunity. You go to the pyramid tunnels, you raise your immunity, you clean your blood, you improve your auric field, bioenergy field around your body. You get your chakras balanced. They open up, so energy flows better. Pyramid energy clears the atmosphere. Pyramid energy even can have impact to the social relationships in the community. Our friend, Dr. Alexander Golod from Russia, he built a pyramid near Moscow. Oh. He placed 5 tons of kitchen salt in the pyramid for 30 days. He took it to the nearby prison. He signed a contract with them. And he asked those department chiefs to put this kitchen salt, in breakfast and lunch and dinner. 3 months later, he went there, he spoke to them. He asked them if they could see any changes. They said, yes. This is like we have brand new prisoners. The violence level was reduced to 0.
Yeah.
Now imagine, you have prison with 6,000 prisoners.
Yeah.
And they all like to play with the knives and the guns and the blackmailing. 0 was the violence level. After a year, he went back to the Russian government to renew the contract. And they said no, they didn't want to renew it. It is like they want us to be violent. And
yeah, they do.
So the point is, the pyramid energy can be used literally for anything and everything. So it is solution for some of our issues that we are facing. That's about the pyramid energy and about the project. And it has become the most active archaeological project in the world. Every year, hundreds of volunteers and experts in different fields come to Bosnia, to the town of Visoko to join us.
So Sam, can I ask this then? Obviously, the Bosnian pyramid is the biggest. I think it's one of the newest that's been discovered. It's a question I don't want to ask, but I feel obliged to, because some people say, oh, it's fake or it's man-made. I mean, I think all pyramids are man-made. It might have been thousands of years ago. But has that been asked of you before, the word fake, a fake pyramid? Has that come across your path?
Well, as I said, majority of the people have been programmed.
Yes.
Pyramid, Egypt, tombs. Now, we have Bosnian pyramids, much bigger than Egyptian ones. They are much older than Egyptian ones. The concrete material is best quality concrete ever.
Yeah.
The precision which they made it, orientation to the north, is the most precise on the planet. And everything I mentioned is measurable. I understand the blockage in the people who has their PhDs or professorships who've been teaching our kids wrong for decades. So once they realize, hey, there is a possibility that there are more pyramids, not only in Egypt, but also in Europe. They are bigger, they are older. Everything has to change. They don't want to accept that. Plus, archaeology is very, very conservative science, history, same thing. So, yes, people are saying there is nothing there, it's impossible, this and that, but these are their opinions.
Yes.
Opinions do not count in the real science.
Yeah.
They are irrelevant.
Yeah.
If they came to our site and they took samples of the concrete blocks and they, through some institutes, they concluded, no, this is perfectly natural. If they brought their geodesists, and they did their measurements with total station. They said, this is not perfect orientation to the north, but it is 20 degrees off. If they came and they said, no, this is not geometry of the pyramid, it's geometry of whatever, sphere. If they came and they said there is no energy beam on the top, if they came and they said this organic material is not 29,200 years old, plus minus 400 years, but it is 50 years old. If they use scientific argument, then yes, we could discuss, and I would take their arguments into consideration.
So the best thing they can do is come and see you, really, isn't it? They need to come and visit and check it out rather than make these allegations. But yeah, I had to ask because I wanted you to explain. So if anybody's seeing that, they've got the answer. Go along and become a volunteer or do some experiments. What about the they? You know, you mentioned they. Who do you think they are?
Well, we know who they are. In the case of Bosnia, it's almost complete cultural establishment. It's all archaeologists, most of geologists, most of historians, most of the museum curators, even some institutions like majority of the Ministry of Cultures on different levels here, and museum staff. That's Bosnia. And very similar thing is in neighborhood countries, Croatia, Serbia, Slovenia, then Germany, Poland, and France, and the UK, and the US. And unfortunately for most of them, the main source of information has become non-scientific Wikipedia.
Oh, yeah.
So Wikipedia, you know, when they started, it was, you know, nation. I mean, it was encyclopedia coming from the people's encyclopedia. Not anymore. For years, Wikipedia does not belong to those who, you know, who started that project. It's intelligence community who run Wikipedia. Of course, 80% or even a little bit more of all the entries are general entries. For example, you have entry UK, United Kingdom, it's a country in Europe, it's the capital is London, so many people, you know, general stuff.
Basic stuff, yeah.
But when you come to some delicate stuff, the history, the way certain elites, they are from different countries, from United Kingdom, from Germany, from France, from United States, and so on. But these are people behind the curtain. They have, you know, these are not countries, these are not ordinary people. These are people who have been ruling the world for millennia. If there is something that they don't want to be there, it won't be there.
That's right.
One thing is history, another thing is probably biology. They are telling us, you know, we are a product of the evolution. If they have become, you know, beings from the apes, that's fine, but it's not me, it's not my case. So things like that, they control, because they want us to believe in certain narrative, in certain paradigm, which has to be changed. We are all aware of that. Of course,
this is our time.
You and I, you know, we have witnessed probably in the last 15 years how the world was opening up, how people are becoming much more open to different influences. You know, 30, 40 years ago, if you were researching, independently in ancient history, that's the only thing you were doing. If people were doing yoga, that was the only thing. If people were eating healthy, you know, they were separate. But now all of a sudden, in the last 15 years, all this knowledge about the healthy way of living, including mental way of living, we are becoming the one. So we were getting close to free ourselves. And this is what they didn't want.
And I think they didn't expect it as well. I think, you know, there's a lot of us that, like you say, are coming together that have this other wisdom, knowledge, experience. And I think we've been put on the planet to do the work. But when I was saying who are they, who do you think the elite are and why are they doing it?
Okay.
I know they're feeding on.
We are talking about the pyramids. Now, of course, they are also organized like a pyramid. The base are billions of people. And as you go higher, you can see certain organizations through which they exercise their powers. For example, Masonic organization, Illuminatis, Red Skull, the Committee of 300, Bilderberg Group. Then those institutes for the, foreign relations, one in Washington, another one in London, royal in London. So you're getting closer to the top. Then you have 12 biggest banks in the world. Those bankers, they're meeting once a year in Switzerland. They decide about the world economy, about the interest rates, about things like exchange rates, things like that. Of course, close to the top, you have the richest people. There are 2,500 super billionaires. 2,500. This is 0.00002.5 world population. But even the richest billionaires, they are not the ones who order the moves. Like the richest four of them. You have Bill Gates, you have Zuckerberg, you have Elon Musk, they are not the ones, even though they have between 150 and 200 billion dollars worth of their fortune. The guys who start all the moves, who decides about everything, are those who print the money. So these are not the government agencies who print the money. For example, in the US, people think that Federal Reserves, that they decide about the money and that this is like a government agency. Wrong. Fed was established in 1930 when Woodrow Wilson signed the act from Congress, and later on he admitted that that was his biggest mistake, where several biggest families established Fed. Those families are Rothschild Paris, Rothschild London, Rockefellers from the United States, Morgans, Lehmans, and one or two more. So they got opportunity to start printing the money and to loan that money to the US government. Thousands of billions of dollars or trillions of dollars they loan to the government with the interest. So the private interest loaned the money to the state and the state authorized them to do that. In Europe, until recently you were part of EU, so we have Central European Bank. And people think, okay, European Bank, they print the euros and they are in charge. There is a parliament in Strasbourg, which has nothing to do really with the money printing. There is executive branch, of course, in Brussels, which has nothing to do with that. Who's deciding about central banks and printing the money? Well, you will find out that 29 national banks, they are part of the central bank and they have their shares. But the national banks, majority of the capital is not state capital. It is private capital.
Privately owned.
Rothschild Paris, Rothschild Barcelona, which was Rothschild London before. And where is the Central European Bank headquartered? Not in Brussels or Strasbourg, but in Frankfurt. And Frankfurt has been headquartered for Rothschilds for 250 years. And they have the largest share in the Deutschland Bank, they have the largest share in French National Bank, in Spanish, and so on and so forth. So who decides on printing the money in Europe? European Central Bank. It's the private interest. Of course, in the UK, it is City of London, which is like extra territory. So when we say who are them, well, you got the answers. We have their names. And they got such a huge network. And they are not exposed. Gates is exposed. Elon Musk is exposed. Zuckerberg is exposed, with all their good sides and bad sides. I don't know about the good sides if they exist, but that's okay. So they are behind the scene and they decide about the major stuff. I remember that big recession, 2008, 2009, that was a project to ruin the middle class, which continued in the last two and a half years. This is what they do. This is their threat, the middle class, because people are educated, they got some money, they travel, they start thinking, and that's the problem for them. When they
So, but what is the purpose, in your opinion? What is the purpose for trying to wipe us out? I know there's this social credit system that's just around the corner, but why do they want us? Do they feed off our energy, off our fear? Is it just a power game? Was there more to that?
Well, that's a good question. You know, when you have $200 billion, what you going to do with that money? I mean, you and I, we know what we're going to do with $100,000 or euros.
You don't
or
need
pounds.
it, yeah.
100,000, you buy yourself a house. 500,000, you buy 2 villas. $1 million, you can buy your plane, a yacht, and whatever. But you cannot live in 10 houses at the same time. You cannot spend 100 millions or billion, not to say 100 or 200 billions. And then this power game starts.
Yeah.
If they had some, complex from the childhood, and obviously they did, all of them they did, plus all of them they had agenda with their parents, with their grandparents, and so on. They continue that because they are chosen. One would say, oh, Bill Gates, he's self-made billionaire. Well, he's not.
No.
Or Bush family, or they are not. So, when we try to think, hey, with the common sense, all right, now they have this biological weaponry, which is popularly called virus. I mean, eventually they're going to get this virus also. Or chemical warfare. I mean, they're going to be affected, obviously. Or nuclear war. The planet will be destroyed. So why would be in their interest to destroy people and material stuff and our beautiful nature? It has to be something more. And I think that you mentioned the right thing when you say fear and energy coming from the fear, and in this case, it wouldn't be people no more.
Yeah.
Because Rockefeller,
yeah.
I would say for majority of earthlings, those guys, they are on the top of the pyramid, but it seems that they are nothing but the puppets, because if they don't do the job, there is somebody who's going to replace them. So they're going to be replaced.
Yeah.
Now, that question is rather delicate.
Yeah, understood.
Behind them.
Okay, so
who makes the moves?
Yeah. What can we do? I mean, many of us are aware of the truth. We're not following the narrative. We're doing our best, like with me and the Freedom Network, to bring people together. And when I was over in Bosnia the other week with my friend Wendy, who you know very well, it was wonderful because with the sportsmen that you were bringing together, and you're bringing, like Djokovic came along and did the tennis, and then you had the basketball players, but you had the children there. And I just love that because you're educating the children on the right path rather than this fear and this nastiness that's going on. So you're doing the same, I think. You're bringing the awareness to the masses, aren't you? That's how I'm seeing it.
That is correct. And the answer to your question, what can we do? Well, we can do a lot. The moment we realize that our destiny is in our hands, that we are on this path where we're going to become free, where we're going to change ourselves. Once we change ourselves, people will recognize that. We're going to start changing them. When I was much younger, in my 20s, I could see a lot of things wrong in society. I started writing books. I was screaming, hey, we need to change this, energy concept, this and that. But nobody was listening.
Yes. Well,
you don't go out there and scream and yell and tell people you have to change. You change yourself.
Inside.
And once they see you, then you become a perfect example. And they see that you are patient, that you know what you're doing, that no obstacles can really disturb you. So people start appreciating that.
Yes.
They start thinking about it. They start thinking about what you are saying. So if I'm saying, or if you are saying, hey guys, let's think about the, clean air, about organic food, about not treated water, about being away from the 5G towers, about stuff like that.
Yeah.
Make sure that what we think does not contaminate our mind or minds of other people, that we don't judge other people, that, advices like that.
Yeah.
Then we're going to make an impact, first on ourselves and with our example. And, I moved 6-7 months ago here near the Rane tunnels here in Bosnia. I moved in here, I have the little forest, I have my fruits, I have my flowers, I have my water, and I'm the happiest man on earth.
Yeah.
I'm not in the city no more.
Well, you've created that. You've been in a wonderful position to create that, and I know you're sharing that, where you can. But people contact me. There's a woman that wants to come and get away from London. She hasn't got much money, but she doesn't want to be in a smart city. She wants to come into the nature and grow her own food and stuff like that. But they are putting laws and regulations in that many will follow, like what we've just gone through 2.5 years ago. There's the Great Reset that's potentially coming. They're stopping you growing food. Or I just read an article about in Canada that farmers cannot sell their food locally. It has to go through a government network. So what would you suggest things like this, because I think they are in fear. There are so many of us waking up and doing the good, the light is shining. But what would you say, how can we take it further? Or is it just a one step at a time being in the light?
In Sri Lanka, when the government said that from now on there will be no gas for the ordinary people, just for the emergency vehicles, whatever, then people rose.
Yeah.
And they removed the people from the power. I'm in favor of peaceful, massive demonstrations, and we need to sue those who bring the laws or measures that are illegal, that are not constitutional. We need to go to the constitutional courts, to Supreme Courts, to whatever, municipal courts. It has to be one after another. So I think with the, judicial system and the public coming out to the streets, that there is a chance for us. Otherwise, if we agree with what they're doing, and they're saying, okay, it's not my problem, it's problem of the, farmers, or it's problem of whatever, policemen, or it's problem of, sooner or later it's gonna come to us.
Yeah.
So they're gonna go as far as we allow them.
Yeah. We just have to say no. And actually, there's a book. There's this book. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's called 180 Degrees by Fergus O'Connor Greenwood. Now he mentions you. I think I put it in an email. He mentions you several times, and he wanted me to, acknowledge this. Get it your way as such. He's coming to the conference that you're coming to. My conference in September, which is great. I haven't read it, but I've heard some very good things. And it's about how to turn or persuade or help assist the sleepyheads, the sleepwalkers that have still got their head in the sand. So, a lot of us are doing the work, because that's why we're here, I think, in this incarnation, to light up the path for those that are still in darkness. So a lot of work to happen. Yeah. So Sam, we've been talking for nearly an hour now. I could talk to you all night, but I'm sure you've got other things to do. Is there anything else you would like to say to people? Obviously, when you come over in September, the floor will be yours. But is there anything else you would like to say? I could ask you loads of questions, but I will be quiet and just.
I came back from United States to first Sarajevo and then Visoko, this town of Visoko in Bosnia. Started actually a huge project, but started from zero, from the ground level. And we've been building an open community. Some people come for a couple of hours, but they still got exposed to the pyramid energy, mostly in the tunnels. Some people stay for a few days. Some people come year after year. And imagine that such places like the ones that we have, which started with archaeological sites, then science, energy, spirituality, healing, cultural oasis, sports, and so on, that we built 10 like that, this in Bosnia, 20 in Serbia, 15 in Germany, 100 in the UK, 1,000 in the US, we would change the world. But if we think that we are not powerful enough, then we have a problem. We simply need to be better organized. We need to get organized. So, we need to think positive, and I think that we can do the best for ourselves. And like you said, I'm coming in September. I'll have a chance to talk a little bit more.
Thank you. And we, like you said, getting organized, that's kind of what the Freedom Network is about. It's setting up these communities or putting an infrastructure in for people to find each other all around the planet. And when I was in Bosnia the other week, I ended up chatting with a guy, and he's on the map so other people can find him. But also what we're doing in September, on the 10th of September, so 10/11, not 9/11, we are creating what we called a community jubilee. So we've just celebrated our monarch's, 70 years of being the Queen, whatever it was. So people in the UK like to go out and have jubilees and fetes and fairs with the bunting and street parties. So I said, why don't we have a street party, a jubilee, to celebrate freedom and community and neighborhood? And it's an opportunity for everybody to come out, especially us that know what's going on, but invite the sleepyheads to come along, and they're going to say, oh, what's all this about then? What are you celebrating? We'll just say, well, freedom, the community, and the cost of living, isn't it expensive? And then we just start sowing a few seeds and then directing them into some various websites or, where they want to go, just selling it to them basically, but sowing a few seeds so they ask questions and then they get it, because all of this is linked, everything is linked. And like you said, it's been happening for tens of thousands of years, but we are here to change it. I know that it is. I'm giving it to 2025 for some reason, and then I think we go back into the Garden of Eden and we get our planet back. That's what I'm putting out there. But
Good.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, Sam, it's so lovely to talk with you. Thank you so much for giving me your time. I will see you in September. I'll very much look forward to that. And are you going to stay on for a little bit as well? Because I know there's lots of people that would like to meet you.
It'll be Saturday and Sunday.
Okay. And then you're flying in and flying out? Or just
yes.
Okay.
Correct.
I'll try and get the people to come and meet you and have the questions. All right.
Great.
Lovely. Thank you so much. And
thanks a lot.
It's a pleasure.